Robert Carter stood on the stone balcony of his modest uptown apartment, the early evening breeze lifting his dark hair and whispering through the empty wineglass in his hand. The city below pulsed with life, horns blaring, people shouting, music thumping from an open window somewhere down the street, but inside him there was only stillness. It had been exactly 1 year since Julie vanished. Not a call, not a letter, not even a damn text. All he had was her final message, typed hastily and sent at 3:02 a.m., the night before they were supposed to fly to Florence together. That night had been etched into his soul like a cruel tattoo. "Please don't look for me. I'm sorry. Goodbye." Those words had detonated inside him like a bomb, and in the fallout, nothing had survived. Not the plans he made, not the dreams they built together, not the man he used to be. He had loved her, fiercely, fully, without hesitation. She had been warmth in his coldest places, laughter in his quiet days. Her music had filled his apartment like sunlight spilling across the hardwood floors. She used to practice in the early hours, believing the dawn made her braver. He used to sit behind her on the worn leather couch, pretending to read while he memorized every graceful movement of her fingers on the keys. All gone. Robert drained the last drop of wine, let the glass clink gently onto the table, and turned back into the apartment. The place was tidy but lifeless, like it had been scrubbed of all memory. He had tried to forget her. Really tried. Therapy, long runs, a string of casual, meaningless dates that ended the moment anyone asked why he seemed a million miles away. He had even deleted her number once, then spent the next 2 hours memorizing it again before it faded. The problem wasn't that she left. People left. The problem was the silence. Why? Why would the woman who had looked him in the eyes and said, "You are my home," vanish into the dark without a word of explanation? His phone buzzed. A message from Elijah, his best friend since college. "Heading to Gatsby's tonight. You should come." Robert stared at the screen a moment, thumb hovering. Gatsby's was a rooftop bar downtown, filled with overdressed men and women who sipped overpriced cocktails and pretended their lives were exciting. "No thanks," he texted back. Instead, he walked to his desk and opened the drawer he never touched. Inside was the old Polaroid of him and Julie in Central Park, bundled in scarves and grinning like idiots. Her lips were chapped from the cold, but she had still kissed him anyway, right there on the bridge. He exhaled slowly, letting the ache settle in his chest like an old friend. Then he tossed the photo back in the drawer, slammed it shut, and forced himself to sleep. But that night, for the first time in months, he dreamed of her. And when he woke up, everything began to change. Robert was halfway through his second coffee the next morning when the package arrived. It was thin, wrapped in plain brown paper, and wedged beneath a stack of architectural blueprints he had ordered for a client. No return address, no name, just Robert Carter scrawled in messy black ink on the front. He turned it over, then back again. Something about the weight of it felt off. He sliced it open with a knife from the kitchen drawer. Inside was a bubble-wrapped phone. Old, scuffed around the edges. The model looked like something from a few years back, definitely not his. With it was a single yellow sticky note. The handwriting was small and angled. "The truth is buried. Dig." No signature, no instructions, no clue what he was holding. His first instinct was to toss the thing in the trash. This smelled like a prank, or worse, some twisted scam. But his fingers hesitated. The screen was dead, but there was a charging port at the bottom. Against his better judgment, he connected it to the spare charger he kept in the drawer. It powered up with a soft buzz. The home screen was blank, no wallpaper, just the standard black background and a string of app icons, none labeled. His pulse quickened. This was strange, too deliberate. A phone like this didn't just end up in his mailbox. There was a single notification on the screen. Voice memo. Dated exactly 1 year ago. He tapped it, and everything stopped. The voice, soft, shaky, unmistakable, cut through the silence like a blade. Hi, Robert. I don't even know if you'll ever hear this. I don't know if this message will survive everything they're trying to do, but if it does, if it finds you, I need you to know the truth. I didn't leave you because I stopped loving you. I never stopped. They made me choose. And I didn't have the strength. I'm sorry. The recording ended abruptly, but her voice echoed in his head. Julie. It was her. Without question. No AI. No deep fake. She had left him that message. But who were they? And what had she meant? Made her choose. His hand trembled as he pulled the USB drive from the package. There had to be more. Files, photos, proof. Robert didn't hesitate. He called Ria. Ria was a cybersecurity expert he'd met during a short consulting project with a real estate firm. She was smart, blunt, and owed him a favor. When she picked up, he cut to the chase. I need your help. I think Julie tried to contact me through a burner phone with files. Can you take a look? There was a pause on the other end. Bring it over. Now Ria's apartment was cluttered with cables, glowing monitors, and half-assembled tech gadgets. The walls were plastered with vintage movie posters, Blade Runner, The Matrix, Inception, and she wore a hoodie that read, "Hack the world, pay the consequences." She plugged the USB into her custom-built rig, her fingers flying across the keyboard. There's encryption, nothing military grade, but someone didn't want this to be easy. She glanced at Robert. You sure you want to see what's on this? Absolutely. The files began to open, one by one. Photos, screenshots of emails, a calendar of appointments, and then medical records. Not Julie's, but documents bearing her name. A private clinic in upstate New York. Diagnoses that made no sense. Notes about voluntary psychiatric observation. Voluntary, my ass, Ria muttered. This smells like a setup. There was more. A surveillance photo of Robert walking out of his office building circled in red. Another of him sitting at a cafe, alone, taken from a distance. What the hell, he breathed. Ria leaned forward. This wasn't just manipulation. Someone was watching you, tailoring her silence. They wanted you to think she was gone for good. Robert stared at the screen, fury building beneath his ribs. There had been no closure because they made sure of it. They hadn't just taken Julie. They had erased her and nearly erased everything they'd been. His phone buzzed again, a notification from a trending tab in the news app. Engagement of the season, Julie Grace Monroe to wed tech billionaire Colton Vance. The headline hit him like a punch to the gut. Julie, getting married, in 2 weeks, to Colton Vance. The man had money, power, and a carefully crafted public image. But Robert had a gut feeling, and now he had evidence. She hadn't left him. She'd been taken. The Monroe estate loomed like something out of a Gothic fairy tale. Nestled on a cliffside overlooking the ocean, its sprawling gardens and marble courtyards were the setting for the wedding of the decade. The press called it a love story for the ages. Julie Monroe, the brilliant pianist and heiress to an old-money empire, marrying Colton Vance, the tech mogul who could seemingly do no wrong. It was all a lie. Robert stood at the edge of the forest that bordered the estate's eastern gate, dressed in black, wind biting at his jaw. The envelope in his coat pocket felt like a live wire against his chest. Inside were printed copies of the evidence, emails, surveillance photos, appointment schedules, and the voice memo transcribed word for word. He hadn't slept in days. His hands were calloused from climbing walls and crawling through secrets, but his eyes were clear, sharper than they'd been in a year. He had the truth, and he wasn't going to let her walk down the aisle without knowing he still loved her, not when the choice had never really been hers. Security was tight, but he had timed the rotations. A catering van created just enough cover for him to slip in through the side gate, jacket zipped, cap low, face set like stone. He didn't recognize the guests. Wealth dripped from every silk dress and tailored suit. Champagne flowed like water. He caught snatches of conversations, stock options, yachts, crypto portfolios. Not a single word about love. A string quartet played softly near the arched rose garden where white chairs were lined up in perfect rows. The altar was draped in white chiffon and lilies, Julie's favorite. She used to joke lilies were for funerals. Robert gritted his teeth. He slipped into the back, ducking behind a decorative trellis just as the music shifted and the guests turned. The bride was coming. He stepped out of the shadows, and there she was, Julie. Hair twisted in elegant coils, veil flowing like mist behind her, her eyes lowered. But when she lifted them and saw him, everything stopped.
A gasp rippled through the crowd. The music faltered. Julie blinked once, twice, and then her mouth parted, soundless. Colton stepped forward from the altar, confusion morphing into irritation, then recognition. Robert raised the envelope. "We need to talk," he said loudly. "Not to you, Colton, to her." Security moved, fast. But Julie stepped forward, one hand raised. "Stop," she said. And they did. Robert walked down the aisle like it was war. The officiant stammered, unsure whether to stay or flee. A murmur buzzed through the guests, some filming already, others too shocked to move. He handed her the envelope. "I got your message," Robert said, voice low. Her hands trembled as she took it. Her lips quivered. "You listened to it?" "Every second." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. Not yet. Colton stepped forward. "This is a private event. He needs to leave." Julie opened the envelope. As her eyes scanned the contents, color drained from her face. She looked at Robert, then at Colton. "Is this true?" Colton didn't answer. Julie turned slowly to the crowd. "Everyone, I think the wedding is off." Gasps, cries, a camera clattered to the ground. And then, Julie collapsed. Julie awoke in a pale blue room, the sterile scent of antiseptic in the air, and soft beeping behind her head. Her eyes fluttered open, slowly, adjusting to the soft, fluorescent light. Robert sat beside her, hunched over, the envelope still clutched in his hand like a talisman. "Hey!" Her voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. He looked up, relief crashing across his face. "You fainted." "Mild shock," the doctor said. "You'll be okay." She blinked, then the tears came, slow and silent, trickling down her cheeks. He moved closer but didn't touch her. "I read everything," Julie said. "I always thought I was strong enough to fight them, but they didn't just threaten me. They said they'd ruin you, destroy your name, have you arrested for assault. I thought if I left without a trace, you'd be safe." They sat in silence. The kind of silence that only comes after surviving something that tried to kill you. She wiped her eyes. My mother staged the clinic paperwork. She said I was unstable, needed help. But really it was about the Monroe image. Marrying you didn't fit the narrative. And Colton was their plan B. He offered them something I never could: status, control, compliance. The engagement was just another deal to him. Robert's fist clenched, knuckles white. "I'm going to the press," she whispered. "With your help, I'll tell everything." "Are you sure?" She met his eyes. "If I'm going to reclaim my life, I need to burn the lies. Every last one of them." They met the journalist in a hotel suite far from the estate, far from the city, far from the claws of the Monroe family. A woman named Lila Torres, known for fearless reporting and toppling billionaires. Julie brought documents. Robert brought the recordings. The story aired within 48 hours. Julie Monroe, the heiress held hostage by her own family. In 20 minutes, the illusion shattered. The engagement was off. Colton's reputation tanked after Lila uncovered a trail of NDAs from previous partners. The Monroe family released a carefully worded statement, but it didn't matter. The public had already chosen a side. Julie's. Social media exploded. Justice for Julie. Talk shows dissected the scandal. People debated love, control, wealth, and manipulation. And through it all, Robert stayed by her side. But love, even resurrected love, doesn't come easy. One morning, a week after the interview aired, Robert found Julie sitting on a park bench overlooking the water. She was playing a soft melody on her phone keyboard, something he recognized from years ago. He sat beside her. "Do you think we can ever go back to the way it was?" she asked. He looked at her for a long time. "No, I don't think so, but maybe we can build something new, something real. No lies, no masks, just us." She turned to him, eyes wet with something gentler than pain. "Then let's start today." Months passed. The storm faded. The media moved on. But the two of them didn't try to erase what happened. They used it. Julie launched a foundation for victims of emotional coercion. Robert left the firm and started his own practice, smaller, quieter, but more meaningful. They didn't rush into anything. They healed, slowly, together. One evening, on the anniversary of the day she vanished, they returned to the restaurant where they had had their first date. The place had barely changed. Same crooked table, same lazy ceiling fan, same scent of cinnamon and hope. She reached across the table and took his hand. "Thank you for finding me when I was lost." He smiled, fingers curling around hers. "You were never lost, just waiting to be found." And this time she didn't disappear. Thank you for listening. We would appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to our channel to hear more riveting stories of love, hope, and overcoming.